Well, last week I talked about passion, and that we all hopefully have a passion for something or someone in our lives, and if we don't have a passion, there's something wrong, or maybe we're dying already. Passion is part of what makes us. And as I said, I had a passion for Norway in the World Cup, and I discovered passion is a very strong force, because when Norway lost, I felt sad. And yet I'm an Australian and I don't follow football, but I had a passion for Norway. Passion comes to us from somewhere, from fertile ground. What is that fertile ground? Well, one, shall we say, fertile ground or fertile field from which we get passion is family. And we all come from a family of one type or another. And I thought a lot about my family this past week, because this week, 14 years ago, my mother and father died. So I was reflecting on my family, my mother and my father. And as I think of my father, I often think of the great quote from Mark Twain, a smart, wise man, an American of the 19th century. And this is what he wrote, and I identify with it. When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant that I would not stand him around me at all. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much he had learnt in 7 years. I identify with that so much. I went through my turbulent teenage years, and my teenage years went beyond 17 or 18. It went into my 20s. And fertile ground, families are fertile ground. Good and bad comes out of it. Some families aren't that hot, aren't that great. And the passion that arises might not be that healthy. That's very sad and that's very tragic, but it's part of the reality. Let us not idealize any family, because no family is perfect. We are all human. I say every family is a little bit functional and a little bit dysfunctional. My family was and is much the same, just another human family. There's no Hollywood version. And as I reflect back, I was a rather, shall we say, turbulent teenager, believe it or not, and I used to have great fights with my mother, generally over religion and politics, because I go to seminary and university and learn all these things, and I think that I'm so much better than my mother and father. I was the one who was arrogant. And I remember one day we had one fight too many, and my mother said to me, "I don't know why you still live here." And I said, "I'm leaving next Saturday," and I did. And that was part of the story. And it reminds me that love that is lived in the most intimate of communities, in partnerships, in marriage and in family, that love doesn't just involve good times, that love also involves conflict and tensions. And they exist and they are real and they are ongoing. And I reflect in my own life, until the day my parents died, I always had this issue about control, but I believe it was my issue. I hate the issue of control even till today. Anyway, that's another story. But anyway, it strikes me that out of a history of love, which is lived between the good and the bad, between the love that expressed in kisses and hugs and everything that is good, sweet and nice, is also expressed through the tensions and conflicts that we know. And the way we deal with tensions and conflicts is really what keeps us together. And with the two sides going together in a tension, so intimacy grows. One of the models I read for preparing couples for marriage is that of the porcupines. To say that if two porcupines come together, they don't want to get too close or else they hurt each other. So intimacy is growing through becoming close but also allowing space. But in the end, out of the good and bad, out of the closeness and the distancing, so there grows up intimacy, the goodness, the love. It grows out of everything that makes the mixture of a community of love, whether it's a family, whether it's strong friendships, good partnerships or whatever. If all the time it's just about niceness and good things and sweet things, what's it really about? Love is tested through the conflicts and the tensions, and out of that there is growth, and the love grows and deepens, and so intimacy becomes real. I reflect that in my own life, because from the very moment my parents died, the only thought and the only memory I have of my mother and father that remains in me and my heart is that simply they were good and kind people. They did everything they could for me. They did the best they could. They couldn't do anything more. What more do I want? I'm happy with my mother and father, and they're still with me. Intimacy. But intimacy is not a magic. It doesn't just grow out of sweetness and niceness. It grows out of the good and the bad, the tensions, the conflicts, the kisses, the hugs, the work, the hard work, and the effort made to always know you are a good person. Same with the kingdom. It grows out of the good and the bad. And in the midst of all of that, there is God in the midst. And it reminds us that spirituality is part of who we are, that part of our nature, part of the nature of any community, part of any family, part of any friendship is the spiritual side that nourishes us. Spirituality is not up there somewhere for somebody who becomes simply a great living saint of the church. Spirituality is part of who we are in our life because God immersed himself in the midst of the messiness, the chaos, the hatred and the death in our world. That tells us that part of who we are is the spiritual nature of who we are. The physical, the mental, the spiritual, it all goes together. And it makes us who we are. And so families, friendships, partnerships flourish, intimacy grows, and the kingdom arrives no matter what, even despite us, and grows in the midst of who we are. The good bits, the bad bits. The loving bits, the conflicts and the tensions. It's all part of the same mix.